Hello, hello, habits, my old friend habits. Sometimes we have habits that we work with all the time, and sometimes we sort of forget our habits or they fall by the wayside. Today, I'm going to show you 4 ways that you can invite habits back into your life, that you can restart habits, that can get back into habits. So, hello, habits, my old friend, returning to habits that we want to return to. Let me start by saying, don't be so smart. Just don't try to be so smart, because sometimes we think, oh, we've got that. We've got that habit. I'm going to get that going. I'll restart exercise. I'll restart drinking more water. I've got this and that. And we think very methodically and rationally and planfully about starting that habit. Well, I'm here to suggest don't think about it. Try to make the kind of habit that you almost don't need to think about, or there's a quick trigger and you do it and that's it, and it's off your plate. And the first time that I really thought about this, I think I must mention Margaret every third show or something like that. My co-author Margaret on our book, Margaret Greenberg and I were talking about, when we were writing Profit from the Positive, we were talking about habits, and we decided, hey, we realized that a lot of the executives that we work with, they outsource habits. They send their habits somewhere else. So why shouldn't we? They outsource all their work. I was already thinking about habits. They outsource work. They send their work outside of their main company to contractors, to different places globally. So it's very normal to outsource work. Why don't we also outsource some of what we need to get done by outsourcing it as habits? Habits are a way of outsourcing from the mental, the thinking, the deliberate, the must work part of your brain to the, oh, it's getting done, it's getting done, it's getting done automatically. So my 2 questions to you as we start these 4 tips on getting back into habits, my 2 questions to you are, what habits have you dropped during the pandemic? It could be a good habit or a bad habit. So give me some so we can work with some of your examples. What habits have you dropped during the pandemic? I'm going to take some of your answers. And you could also give me, instead of that, what habits have you started during the pandemic? What have you dropped? What have you started? I'll give one of my examples as you bring me some of your examples. This works best when you give me your examples, because then we can talk about specifics. A habit that I've started is, it's somewhere in the background. You can't see it. Oh, you can see it a little bit when I move. Sorry, it's left and right. That's a cello. My kids play string instruments. I have rented a cello. I'm on week 4 of learning how to play the cello as a fully grown-up adult. It's humbling, and it's fun, and it's great to have my kids show me things that I don't know. So that's a habit that I've started during the pandemic. A habit that I would like to start, that I have dropped a little more, is exercise. I do some, but not as much as I would like or did before. So what are you dropping and what are you starting? And then let's get into it. If we want to revisit our habits, so if we want to come back to a habit that we like, we can use these 4 approaches. We can use tiny habits, stacking habits, the big Y of habits, and identity as habits. So think about a habit you want to move towards. One habit. Let's think about one habit you want to move towards. And then let's consider which of these approaches would help you move towards it. By the way, I don't know, just in a conversational way, I don't know if you're noticing, this is one of the first and only broadcasts that I'm actually sitting for. I usually love to stand at the standing desk, but thought, hey, I'll get started right on time from where I am at the sitting desk. So strange for me. I only do this when I'm doing the cello series. So habits. You've either dropped or you've started some habits. Here are ways to come back to habits. One is tiny habits. Love this idea. This is BJ Fogg, the researcher at Stanford. And I do this because it's easy. An example of tiny habits is to do 1 push-up in the morning. You're going to laugh if you haven't heard me talk about this before. Or to floss 1 tooth. One of your teeth, to floss 1 tooth. Or to write down 1 sentence in something that you're writing. So I do this because it's easy. That's a tiny habit. One way to come back to your habits. Stacking habits. I do this because I pair them. Let me think of a fun example. A very typical example is I'm a big fan of vitamin D, but whatever vitamins you like to take, if you pair your vitamin with something else, like having it near your morning cup of tea over breakfast. So if you physically pair one thing that you want to start with something that you're already doing. For example, I want to do more crunches in the morning, but I know I always go for a morning walk. So I just do crunches at the end of my morning walk. Or I know I always take a shower. I do crunches just before a shower. So they're stacking habits. So now we've got doing something that's super easy, like one push-up a day. We've got stacking habits, which is putting a habit that you want with another habit. Then we have the big why. So you already know Simon Sinek because you're here with me. You're already what my colleague Margaret Greenberg again calls an evolved manager or an evolved business person. You already know about Simon Sinek. I do this because I care about the result. So something that I've been doing, and this is a little more personal, but I really care about us spending good time, my kids and I. So we play board games in the evening sometimes, not every evening, but that's a really nice way for us to spend silly, laughing, what we call rule number 6 time concept of Ben Zanders, but this silly, just being silly, not taking your life too seriously. And I have planned that. So the big why. And now let's go to the one that I think is most effective. So we've gone through doing tiny habits as a way to get back to your habits. We've gone through stacking habits, which is pairing the vitamins with breakfast or pairing anything with something else that you are already doing. We've done thinking about the big why as you reinstate a habit. And I think this one is the most effective. I do this because this is me, that it fits with your identity. For example, for me, starting the cello, I could put it into any of these, but really I do the cello because my kids are becoming young musicians. I would like to do that as a family. So once something fits the context of who we are as a family or who I am, that's part of my identity. And it's so much easier to do something when it's the thing that you are. So it's a little tricky to find how a habit would come from the thing that you are, but just think about that thing that you most want to be. When I started doing executive coaching, I was working out with a Navy SEALs trainer and loved it. It was this super hard class that a few people went to at my gym. And I felt like I was on top of the world. That was my identity, to be that strong person so that I could be more vulnerable when needed or strong when needed in the coaching. All right, let's bring all of these together. So 4 ways to return to habits. Hello, habits, my old friend. I've come to speak with you again. One way is to try with super small habits, a tiny habit like one push-up. Another is to stack your habit, attach a habit like doing crunches from when you walk around the block, attach one to the other. Another is to think about the big why, like it is important to spend not just time together, but quality time, which may happen to be board games. And the most effective, I think, is identity. This is me, and that's why I will start this because it is part of me. So given all this, let me give you an example, one visual example to round us out. Imagine that you're stacking a big block of Jenga blocks. So first you would start with 1. That's that tiny habits idea. You would start with 1. The next you would keep stacking and stacking these Jenga blocks. You know, I really should have brought the Jenga blocks, but imagine them. Let's visualize them. 1, and then you stack them. And then you have a big vision. Maybe this set of Jenga blocks, maybe I lean it and it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or I make it high and it's the Empire State Building. So I have a big vision of where I'm going to. And that fits with what's my big why for restarting these habits. And finally, with this Jenga block set, balance is very important. And so that is the balance of who and what are you. So my vision for you is imagine that you are one of these steps. Either you're doing one Jenga block, that first one, or you're stacking them, so you're pairing habits, or you have a vision of what the structure will be, or you really care about that balance and what fits most with you. And hence, we have come full circle to 4 ways to return to hello habits, my old friend. Delighted to be with you. And I bring this topic up today because habits are something we sometimes drop and then need to return to. So maybe this is a tiny trigger for you to try another way to return to it. great spending time with you today, and we look forward to seeing you again. I will see you every day here, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific. All the best.